Today, I'm going to be giving you the rundown on every single La Liga team. It took me ages to write this script. It's actually 11 pages long this time, so I really would appreciate you dropping a like and subscribing if you want to see more career mode content. If you don't want to watch all of this at once, check out my second channel where the link is in the description, and I'll cut this video up into 1-minute chunks and you can watch it team by team in that way. But anyway, let's get started straight away with our first team, which is going to be Almeria. While the Powerhouse Stadium might not be on FIFA, that doesn't mean you can't have fun managing Almeria. With Saudi ownership, Almeria took a few seasons from being bought out to winning promotion, but now they're in La Liga, they have a squad full of talented young players. If you can develop Belgian Largi Ramazani and Brazilian Lazaro into the players that their potential allows them to become, you will have potentially a lethal attack with ratings in the mid-80s. The rest of the Almeria squad has some very bizarre ratings. Striker Diego Souza is rated at 76 overall, despite only scoring 5 goals in the past 60 games, and centre-back Kaike has 57 strength, despite not being anywhere near that weak in real life. You should spend as much of your Saudi money as possible in the first transfer window, trying to improve the area of the squad that you think is the weakest. Centre-back is the obvious choice to look at first, but both fullbacks and the entire midfield will need replacing eventually, probably before the end of Season 2. Almeria will want to keep improving every single season, hoping to win their first major trophy. Their only silverware in their trophy cabinet is last year's second division's winners trophy, so focus on any kind of cup before making a play for Europe in a few seasons' time. In total, there are 3 different teams with specific signing instructions on FIFA 23. The first and most obvious and most well known is Athletic Bilbao. With their own motto about the policy being, with homegrown talent and local support, there's no need for an import, Bilbao have only been signing players from the Basque area of Spain for the last 110 years. This makes Bilbao both a fun save but also a truly unique one too. It's hard to recommend what players you can sign with Bilbao. Their policy restricts them so much that it's tough to say exactly who you can sign. I've put 2 FIFA shortlists in the description below, so check them out if you want to play as Athletic Bilbao. Former Leeds manager Marcelo Bielsa was set to coach the side if Iñaki Aricha won the elections. He even gave a presentation to the club on the things he would implement. The 66-year-old had managed Athletic Bilbao between 2011 and 2013, so you could realistically roleplay in his style if you want to switch things up. Of all the Basque clubs, Athletic Bilbao is by far the richest. They've paid the record fee from any Basque club with 32 million paid for Inigo Martinez, but some in Bilbao would like you to pay the £75 million release clause that would unlock Mikel Oyarzabal from your big rivals Real Sociedad. The challenges of progressing with Athletic Bilbao while only signing Basque players sounds easy, but after a few seasons a lot of the Basque players will retire, meaning you'll be relying on your youth academy to try and progress any further. It might be worth winning a few La Ligas with the club and then moving on to a bigger team where you have a little bit more freedom. Atletico Madrid is one of the rare occasions that a big team doesn't play in the same slow possession-based style. Simeone's tactics are based around hard work and defensive solidity, and this is exactly what makes the second biggest team in Madrid one of the best Spanish career mode saves. Striker combination Alvaro Morata and João Felix might not have the potential they used to have, but the big man little man combination can work really well on this year's game. Crosses being fired in from Carrasco and Llorente on the wings are always going to be accurate, and with any knockdowns potentially falling from Morata's head to your Portuguese wonderkid Felix, you're guaranteed goals. The only real lack of talent in the squad comes at centre-back. Savic and Jimenez are both good combination, but outside of Jimenez you don't really have a young centre-back. Felipe, Savic and Witsel are all over the age of 30. Any new Atletico manager will look into signing at least 2 young centre-backs before the end of their second season. With them being so crucial to the style Atletico play, look for tall, strong and ball-playing centre-backs, which luckily the Spanish league is absolutely full of. Throughout your save, you'll be keen to avenge the past, where Atletico have been runners-up in the Champions League 3 times. If your players hit their potentials, you'll have an amazing chance of trying to go one better and finally winning the competition. Barcelona are one of the most fun big team rebuilds on FIFA 23. As a team in a state of constant rebuild, with a world famous youth academy in La Masia and former player Xavi as the manager, you'll have three of the most fun options to rebuild Barcelona into a new golden generation. Re-signing someone like Messi would be fun, developing Gavi and Pedri to be as good as Iniesta and Xavi would be even more fun, and seeing if you can get Barcelona their first Champions League since 2015 would be the most fun option. Of course, any future that Barcelona has is built around Gavi, Pedri, Ansu Fati, and Ronald Araujo. Make sure you play these academy graduates as much as possible, with all of them having potentials close to 90 overall. Signing players to fill the gaps with similar potential is also important. Having a striker that can develop to be as good as Lewandowski is vital. One option could be Napoli striker Victor Osimhen. Osimhen was rumoured to be the Luis Suarez replacement a few seasons ago before Barca decided to splash the cash on Griezmann, so bringing him in now isn't actually that unrealistic of an option. It's up to you if you want to try and revive the tiki-taka style, or if you'd play a more direct and effective counter-attacking style. Whichever one you pick, the challenge of managing Barcelona is the same, to try and rebuild a giant club and get them back to being the best team in Europe. With rivals Madrid looking stronger than ever, now is the time for another Spanish team to compete at the highest level. If you'd like to rebuild an old team, then maybe Cadiz could be the ideal save for you. With 6 players over 30 years old in your best 11 players, you'll have to try and bring in fresh players almost instantly. Players like Ledesma, Chust, and Ocampo have the potential to be top quality La Liga players, but the majority of the squad have already peaked and are now on their way down. Cadiz like to use the long ball, with direct passes heading straight to Perez and Soriano. With neither being too tall or too good at jumping, the long balls are going straight along the floor in an effort to try and counterattack as fast as possible. If you try and decide to keep this style of play, you'll need to invest in some better passes in midfield and probably also some more capable strikers up front. Cadiz have had a few uncommon nations represent them in the past, so don't be afraid to find the next Honduras, Comoros or Philippines international who you can contribute to your La Liga survival bid. This is the real challenge of playing with Cadiz, trying to find enough good players for the low prices you can afford to help you survive one more season. As you finish the rebuild, you can look to improve in the league, but for the first couple of seasons, you should only be focusing on 15th place at best. Celta Vigo have progressed from the 3rd division in 2013 to the top division in 2020, and with you as their manager, the rise to the top doesn't have to end there. Having never won La Liga or the Copa del Rey, Celta Vigo have a bare trophy cabinet. If you can start bringing silverware back to Vigo, you can become their first legendary manager and create true history for the entire city. The standout player in the Celta Vigo squad is clearly 34-year-old Iago Aspas. Almost all of your attacks will involve him as he looks to play his 400th game for the side. Alongside Aspas, you'll have a potentially midfield brilliant combination of Renato Tapia, Denis Suarez and Fran Beltran. As 3 good all-around centre midfielders, you'll be able to win the ball and progress it quickly with that combination. Outside of the first 11 players, there isn't really too much young talent to develop, so if you like to play in that way, you'll first have to identify some young players to bring into the club. Celta Vigo likes to play with a good press, while also attacking with a very wide formation. Any players brought in will need to buy into this tactic unless you decide to change things up. Overlapping fullbacks are needed while also having defensively solid wingers. One player I'd recommend having a look at is Maximiliano Gomez from Trabzonspor. A former Celta Vigo striker, he would be the perfect replacement to take over Aspas' throne, while also wanting to redeem himself in Spain after a failed spell with Valencia. Celta Vigo simply need to win a trophy, so if you can progress deep into the Copa del Rey, that is one possible way of reaching European football, while also adding some silverware to that cabinet. The league might be a bit harder, unless maybe you can get one last 20-goal season out of Iago Aspas. You probably know there's a lot of South Americans in La Liga, while no team has as many Argentinians as Elche. With a big Argentinian focus, Elche also has quite an old squad. This allows you to totally rebuild the squad with as many young Argentinians as you can fit in. They have some former big name players like Javier Pastore. They now play for the club, so there's no real limit to the type of player that you can sign. Goalkeeper Edgar Badia is by far the best player in the Elche squad. It's hard to build a team around a goalkeeper's stats, but he does have decent kicking ability, so this could help with the default long ball tactics that Elche start with. Striker Lucas Boy can finish, but he struggles to outrun any opposition defenders with his low pace stats. Getting the ball into his feet in the box can provide goals, but the rest of the squad isn't actually that great at passing. Make sure you're scouting the Argentinian Premier League. Even as one of the worst quality teams in La Liga, Elche are still an attractive club for most of the players in the league who want to give European football a go. Youth scouts should also head to South America, with there being quite a few Uruguayans playing for Elche in the past few years. With Elche, you'll need to try and stay in the league for at least one more season. Season 2 should have a bit of a younger squad with some of your rebuilt players and a few more good South American prospects in the reserves. As you slowly rebuild, the league should get easier and easier, but I still think you will struggle to get European football even after 4 or 5 seasons. Espanyol are comfortably a mid-table La Liga team. You might be wondering, why would this make them an interesting save? Well, their team is in a decent state. There is still an opportunity for you to build them up into a European level side. With their local rivals being Barcelona, you've even got the battle to be king of the Catalans. This all combines to be a super fun short-term career mode save. Overall, the Espanyol squad is average for La Liga. You'll need to strengthen in defense, while neither starting centre-back is actually that great. Midfield playmaker Sergi Dada would be the dynamo, the person every attack goes through in the middle. Make sure you're using his world-class passing by getting mobile attackers that he can pick out when you're on the counter-attack. Mauricio Pochettino is one of Espanyol's biggest legends. Sending a scout to Argentina to find the next Pochettino is more than realistic. As with all clubs in Spain, South Americans would be classed as homegrown after just 2 seasons if you're playing with realistic rules. Valentin Gomez at Vélez would be a good option as centre-back if you do decide to start looking at Argentinians. To keep the save a bit more challenging, you can even consider trimming any players who were born inside Catalonia. Espanyol don't like that part of their history and their culture as much as Barcelona, so leave all the Catalans for them and just go full Spanish at this club. You could do something similar to Bilbao, maybe choose a different region where you only sign players from, but your real challenge is to try and win the league without any Catalan players in your squad. If you're looking for a very interesting La Liga team, then Getafe might be the one for you. As a team based near Madrid, you'll have dozens of battles to become king of the region with Atletico and Real, although neither of these rivalries are actually that fierce in real life. The board would also like you to sign Uruguayans, and you have to be adept at picking up ex-Real Madrid and ex-Barcelona players. You can see examples in their current squad with Carles Elena, Munier, and Borja Mayoral all playing for Real Madrid or Barcelona. If you can keep these policies up, you'll have no problems returning Getafe to Europe. There's plenty of Uruguayan talents in the Sudamericana, and picking up some of the big three's unwanted youngsters will give you a ton of talent to mould however you want. Although do not count out players who are already in the squad. Mauro Arambari has huge potential despite being 26 years old. Enes Unal is another player who's trying to fulfill the promise he had earlier in his career, and Munier is showing that he can be a good La Liga player and the leader of your attack. These 3 will all be key to your success, and all 3 have room to improve a little bit further. Getafe have appeared in the Europa League in 3 times, 2007, 2010 and 2019. Returning for a 4th time should be your season 1 goal, and you should use the prize money to fund a run at the Champions League in the following 2 or 3 seasons. 2022 is Girona's 3rd season in La Liga, a club that has spent most of its time in the Spanish 3rd and 4th divisions. Now they're owned by City Football Group, the future looks bright for the club, with good loans and big budgets being promised from Manchester City's Spanish sister club. As one of the only teams without a big derby match in the league, Girona can easily improve by picking up the best unwanted talents from any Spanish team. The Girona squad is full of young Spanish players already, but they do have a notable lack of outstanding players. Most of the squad is of a similar rating, with very few having potential to become world class. With this combination of massive funds, good talent, and no real history or success, Girona are a club that you can put your own stamp on. Maybe you'd like to play like your parent club's manager Pep Guardiola. Maybe you prefer Michel's less press-focused style of play, or maybe you want to become the Spanish Sean Dyche. Girona gives you the option of realistically playing in any way, while building an entirely new squad. City Football Group want to have another team that's playing in Europe, so there's no reason Girona can't eventually get to that level. The challenge is to try and see how fast you get there, and if you can develop a few of your young starting squad along the way. Mallorca are one of the few teams on FIFA that exist on an island. Despite their geographical restrictions, Mallorca are a team that can punch well above its size. The best period of Mallorca's history came in the late 1990s, where they recorded back-to-back third-place finishes while also winning the now-defunct UEFA Cup Winners' Cup. Compared to other La Liga sides, the Mallorca squad doesn't feature many Spanish players. Instead, they've got a couple from Africa, a couple from Central Europe, and a couple of South Americans. These are all realistic places you should be looking for new players. With an American owner, the USA could be another avenue Mallorca search in their hunt for better players. Lee Kangin and Pablo Mafiao are two players you should be building your squad around, but if you decide to keep the 5-3-2 formation, you should be on the lookout for at least one new starting centre-back too. Can you progress Mallorca back to the top of La Liga? That's the real challenge of a save with the Balearic Islanders. It'll take a few seasons of progress, but there's no real reason you can't become a similar sized club to someone like Sevilla or Villarreal. Osasuna are one of only 4 teams in La Liga that is owned by the fans, with an elected president. As the only side from Navarra currently in La Liga, you're not only leading a city, but an entire region whenever you manage Osasuna. The pressure of trying to keep all of these fans on your side might be massive, but the idea of bringing Navarra to the same level as Catalonia or Castile is one that I find incredibly satisfying. The name Osasuna means strength in the native Basque language, a language that you share with league rivals Sociedad and Bilbao. It seems like the squad knows what the translation means, as 3 of your starting 11 players are actually incredibly strong. Budimir and Avila are both very strong attackers, with Adrian being one of the strongest defenders on FIFA. Make sure you give as much time to Manu Sanchez as possible, as both he and the Moroccan Ezzazzouli can become top quality wingers. I'd consider playing both from day one, as the other options in your squad are actually all quite poor, so you should be able to get them plenty of game time. Osasuna have never finished in the top 3, so that should be your goal within the first 3 seasons. You have the potential players who can develop to be good enough to be a top 3 team, and you do have a decently young squad with an average amount of money to improve it with. Overall, Osasuna are a good save thanks to being fan-owned, with an interesting location and a ton of good young players. Rayo Vallecano are the least well-known of La Liga's 3 Madrid-based teams, but they have an awesome backstory, good-looking kits, and one of the coolest in-game stadiums. With one side of their stadium just being trees, and the other side being just a wall of adverts, the stadium is one of the only ones in the game without 4 stands. The Vallecano first team starts out very old, with a 36-year-old Falcao still starting at striker. 22-year-old Fran Garcia is the only player under 28 years old. With Raul de Thomas, who's just signed for the club after the transfer window ends, it's up to you if you'd like to use him. But only Fran Garcia and Sergio Camelo begin in the squad with a La Liga level potential. Basically, the entire future of Rayo Vallecano requires you to invest in young players as soon as possible. Thanks to their links with the larger Madrid teams, big-name players like Diego Costa, Saul Niguez, Mario Suarez, and Hugo Sanchez all made switches to Vallecano at some point in the past. Signing players from both Real Madrid and Atletico Madrid should be a key priority, even if you only get to loan the player in. Rayo translates into Spanish to mean thunderbolt, so something you can definitely see features on some of their kits. Why not create your own team of Thunderbolts, making a team of exclusively 85 or more sprint speed players, or alternative, become La Liga's most aggressive and dangerous team, with every player having over 85 aggression. Real Betis and Sevilla contest one of the most interesting derbies in the world. I can't think of another example of 2 teams being formed by the same original club, with Real Betis then splitting from Sevilla in the early 1900s. You have an easy challenge in the save, try and overcome your rivals. While Sevilla were winning back-to-back Europa Leagues, Betis were very much a mid-table team in La Liga. You'll need to try and qualify to match their records in Europe, and I think you'll have a high quality rival, and that's what makes this save so fun. Real Betis have the 7th best squad in La Liga, and instantly you can just see how good some of their squad are. Nabil Fekir, Sergio Canales and Borja Iglesias, as well as William Carvalho are all fairly old, but they won't need replacing for at least 2 or 3 seasons. The rest of the squad is full of high potential players that can fill the gaps. Luis Felipe and Miranda will both be top quality defenders within 2 seasons, and similar can be said for Edgar, Rui Silva and Rodri. There isn't too much pace in the Betis squad, which means you're going to be focused to play on their slow build-up style. However, they do have a lot of stamina, which does help with the press they like to use. If you want to change the default tactics, you will have to buy new players, as that's the only way the initial squad will be able to play. So your goal is to try and qualify for the Europa League as soon as possible and see how far you can get into the tournament. This is where Sevilla's biggest achievements are from, so you can upset your rivals by proving that Betis can do just as well in Europe's 2nd best competition. You might think starting as the champions with near unlimited budget might be boring, but Real Madrid are currently in the middle of a rebuild and have been for the past 2 seasons. With players like Modric, Cruz and Benzema all approaching the end of their career, smart choices will need to be made to continue Real Madrid's success. There's very little room to improve the existing Real Madrid squad. They have the best goalkeeper, the best defensive unit and the best midfield, as well as the best joint attack. I mean, really, you could replace someone like Rodrigo with someone of Vinicius or Benzema's level. If any team could afford to do it, it's Real Madrid, but it's very unlikely you would want to replace a player with 88 potential just because he hasn't hit that just yet. With Real Madrid continuing their standard balanced tactics, all the players will need good stamina, passing and vision if you want to keep playing the Madrid way. Thankfully, with the budget Madrid begin with, you should have no problems finding the exact player you need and want. It seemed like Madrid took ages to go from 9 Champions Leagues to their 10th, but now they find themselves with 14. Your goal with this save is to try and reach 20 Champions League titles within your manager's career. This would make you the undisputed best manager in Real Madrid's history, surpassing other legends like Miguel Muñoz and of course Zinedine Zidane. As the other really famous Basque club, Real Sociedad aren't quite in the similar situation. They got rid of their rule where they only have to sign Basque players about 20 seasons ago, and now they have a team that's got some pretty good international talent in it as well. You wouldn't be able to get past people like Soloth or Zanuzaj, who are both going to be in your first starting 11s, no matter if you like them or not. With their winger captain Oyarzabal also being their best player, he's Basque, so he is a bit of a homegrown talent, and you should definitely be building your squad around players like him. David Silva as attacking midfield, of course, is a legendary midfielder, so he isn't actually going to need that much of a rebuild if you want to get far with Real Sociedad. The real area you're going to want to strengthen is at centre-back. The Sociedad team does have quite a lot of potential in this position, but right now they're not actually quite there, so you might need someone who's a short-term fix just for 1 or 2 more seasons. Overall, I think the goal is to try and win the league with Sociedad, and you can decide if you want to try and recreate the Basque rule or not. The chances are if you're playing your save, then the AI in charge of Bilbao won't be caring about the rivalry, and they'll just get rid of all of their Basque players and sign players from Norway. So if you want to try and sign some of their good Basque players, that's the absolute best opportunity you will get. If you want to play as a team who are more successful in Europe than in their own domestic league, only Sevilla and Nottingham Forest are really options. Sevilla have only won La Liga 1 time in 1946, compared to their 6 Europa League titles in 2006, 7, 14, 15, 16 and 2020. That's right, Sevilla managed to win the Europa League 3 years in a row, and trying to recreate this is going to make your save super fun. Your starting fullbacks are 2 of the best in the entire league. Gomez on the wing is old, but always really good on FIFA, and a huge amount of the squad has potential to be over 82 rated. Sevilla are set to be a powerhouse in La Liga, and you'll only need to improve the squad a little bit to be as good as Real Madrid, Barcelona, and Atletico Madrid. While Sevilla are always competing for Europa Leagues, why not see if you can get deep into the Champions League? Nottingham Forest have won 2 with only a single Premier League win, so why not see if you can get more Champions League wins than you have La Liga wins? See if you can match Nottingham Forest and then become the ultimate European focus club in the entire world. Valencia has always been one of my favourite FIFA career mode saves. Ever since their amazing 2006 side with David Villa, David Silva, Joaquin and Vicente, I've always picked Valencia as my go-to La Liga side. But what makes Valencia so fun? They no longer have 4 of Spain's hottest properties starting in their first team. Instead, they have an owner that doesn't seem to care, they have a squad that seems to get worse on every single FIFA, and they also have quite a lot of debt. This might sound like it combines to be a bad career mode save, but each one of these things is actually a reason to play as Valencia. Peter Lim is the Chinese billionaire that owned Valencia. You might know him for also owning a big stake in Salford FC. You can easily roleplay and imagine that you were bought out by fans, and therefore spend way less on transfer fees and maybe focus on some young upcoming players. This would also help you manage the debt and give you a squad that can actually improve in the future. All of these ideas combine actually to make a really fun career mode save. There's no real obvious challenge for playing a Valencia save other than rebuilding the club from top to bottom. The squad is already fairly young, with only Cavani, Gabriel Paulista and Jose Gaya who need replacing in your starting 11 pretty soon. As all 3 are key men to your squad, make sure you focus on buying players who can develop to be better than they are, rather than players who are at a similar level, and you'll have a fun career mode save. If there's only one thing you know about Real Valladolid, it's probably that their owner is Ronaldo. That's right, the original Ronaldo, the really fast Brazilian, who is probably more known as R9 to some of the younger people. He owns 82% of Real Valladolid's shares, so that means this yo-yo club in Spain is owned by one of the greatest footballers of all time. If you want to try and incorporate this into your career mode, of course you can try and sign some massive named Brazilian players. You can send your youth scouts out to Brazil. There's so many fun ways you can incorporate this into your career mode save. Valladolid do have a little bit of minor history. They've been runners-up of the Spanish Cup, the Copa del Rey, on 2 occasions, and because of being runners-up, this meant they were eligible for the Europa League as it's known now, but the UEFA Cup back in the day, and they qualified for that 2 times. Last year, Valladolid were promoted in 2nd place from the 2nd division of Spanish football to play in La Liga for the first time in 3 years. Their squad overall is fairly decent, but I'm sure the player not only you'll have the most fun with, but the player you'll enjoy the most throughout your career mode is gonna be Gonzalo Plata. So this guy is an Ecuadorian. He plays for Valladolid. He has them for a season or 2 now since he joined from Sporting in Portugal. He's got 90 pace, 90 agility, 82 dribbling, 82 ball control, 82 balance, and he can finish reasonably well as having a fairly fast shot. So this guy is going to be a massive part of any attack you do, and you need to focus all of your play around him. Can Ronaldo be as good of an owner as he was a player? Well, I think the real challenge should be trying to develop a Brazilian striker who's as good as Ronaldo and see if you can bring them to Valladolid and see if you can win La Liga with them. That's a cool challenge, it's a really interesting club, and I do really recommend you give Valladolid a go. The final team we're looking at is Villarreal, also known as the Yellow Submarine. Villarreal are one of the oldest teams in Spain. They were founded in 1923 and didn't really begin playing in La Liga until 1998. They've been in the league pretty much ever since. They even played in the Champions League just 7 years after appearing in La Liga for the first time. They've appeared in the Europa League a couple of times and won it in 2021 where they beat Manchester United in the final. This was their first ever big trophy because they've never won the Spanish Cup, they've never won La Liga, and it was their first successful time in Europe. The Villarreal squad is full of really good talented players. Gerard Moreno is one of the best strikers in the entire league. Pau Torres and Raul Albiol are really good centre-backs. Rulli in goal is really good. Parejo is like the set-piece master. He's so good at free kicks, corners, passing, everything like that. And Lo Celso now plays as a left winger for Villarreal. The rest of the squad also has quite a lot of potential, so you don't actually have to go out and sign too many players. Yeremy Pino, for example, is a right winger, but if you play him as a striker, this guy can become absolutely lethal. He can become rapid with like 90 finishing, and he can finish basically any chance you provide him. Also Samuel Chukwueze, this guy again, really fast already, just needs to improve his shooting and he can become another really good striker. So the options are there if you're playing as Villarreal. The real challenge with them is to try and get a La Liga, something they've never done before. With the 5th best squad in the league, now is probably one of the best times in their history if you wanted to do so. However, they do also have the smallest squad in the league by 5 players, so you might have to invest in some backup players if you want to try and get that title with Villarreal. Villarreal is the last team on this list, alphabetically of course is how we always do this, and thank you all for watching this far if you did watch the entire video. If you just skip straight to Villarreal, make sure you check out some of the other teams that I've talked about earlier on. It's not as long as the Bundesliga guide because there was less information I could really put in there. It's harder to find because a lot of the sources were in Spanish and I can't speak Spanish as well as my German. So thank you all for watching, subscribe if you want to see more like this, and make sure you become a member where I'll be doing a vote for what the next one of these videos is very, very soon. But thank you all for watching, cheers and goodbye.